Okay. Thanks for joining us. I would like to thank Tree Stuff. I'd like to thank Nick Bonner.
Taylor Hamel, everybody.
Carson.
Thanks for sticking with us this morning. We're here. He's thanking everybody. I'm thanking everybody. Carson and Kale doing all the hard work behind the screen. Taylor, just kick it off, man.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, thanks to Carson and Kale for putting all this together. Carson just threw my very important stick away. Anyway, we'll pick it up later. Yeah, I'd like to thank, of course, DMM, the company that I work for making it possible for me to be here. We're going to talk about doubled rope technique today in the canopy, moving about the canopy on a loop system, a moving rope system. There's tons of different acronyms nowadays, MRS, DRT, whatever you want to call it. But it's basically the CE climb, the hitch climber system. What I'm going to be going over is some bits from the Tree Imagineers Climber's Guide to the Canopy. So much love to the Tree Imagineers for putting that together. I'm basically here representing some of those techniques in that publication. One thing I'd like to get out of the way, I hope this is informative for everyone, but I want to say this is just one approach to climbing trees. We're all climbing trees. Do it how you want to do it. This is an approach to climbing trees. Something that I've done, some techniques that I've used over the last 10 plus years. I've been a contract climber for 15. I've been using these techniques for the last 10 years roundabout. So it works for me. I've done a lot of work in different countries with different people using these techniques. They're great. What I hope doesn't happen today, I don't want a bunch of people posting comments about, oh, I could do it this way, or why don't you just do that? That's not what this is about. If you want to learn something here and you think you can take something away, that's great. If you just want to post negative comments, please just don't bother with it, right? This is just a particular way to climb. This isn't gospel, alrighty? Okay, we're back, I think, if we were ever gone. So anyway, don't be negative. Take it all in. Change the channel if you want. Go do something else, but this is a particular approach that I'm going to talk about. So, first thing we need to talk about that makes these techniques a bit easier to accomplish is the hitch climber pulley, okay? Here it is right here, DMM hitch climber pulley. This is manufactured by DMM. In Wales. DMM was founded in 1981. This is pretty standard. People have seen this a lot. 3 attachment holes, 30 kilonewton MBS. That's minimum brake strength is 30 kilonewton. You may notice it says 15 kilonewton on either side of the sheave. Well, that's because when you're running a rope through it, you got 2 sides of rope. 15 kilonewton times 2 is 30. So this is a pulley. It's certified to a pulley standard. You can use it as a pulley any way you like. You can attach to the attachment holes like we do in the hitch climber system or the CE climb, or you can use this for rescue. You can use it for rigging, whatever you want to do, as long as you don't exceed the working load limit, right? But at any rate, there was some maybe a little miscommunication in the field for a number of years about, what the minimum brake strength of this pulley actually is. From attachment hole to pin, that's 30 kilonewton. Hole to hole, 30 kilonewton. All right, all good? Cool. So let's start with a basic setup. We could call this the hitch climber system or CE climb. And I'm going to run this through a pulley saver. It's your choice, whatever you want to run it through. I use a pulley saver, and we'll talk about friction and things like that as we get on in the day. But your basic hitch climber setup, or CE climb, for example, I'm going to put that through my anchor point. I'm going to put the hitch climber around the standing part of line, I suppose. I'm going to attach my place to the middle hole. that I don't have to pick it up off the ground. That's a DMM's Duralock Ultra O, of course. Now when I tie a hitch, I use a 4/4 VT. And I'm going to go over a few, I'll tie the hitch first and just show the setup. Then I want to go over a few pointers on how to minimize twist in your rope when using a hitch. So I'm just going to take 4 wraps up. This is the hitch that's in CE climb, and this is the hitch that I prefer to use. So that's what I'm showing here. And take 4 wraps up the rope. 1, 2. In this case, I'm tying from left to right. It really doesn't matter. But the important thing here is once I have these wraps on the rope, I'm going to pinch them together, and I'm going to just take those legs and run those legs down the rope. And I want those legs to be sitting at the same length at this point. Or obviously, they're slightly different lengths. I want these 2 eyes to be in the same position. You can see that there. All right. When that happens, now I'm going to continue around the rope on the back side, taking the top leg over the bottom leg on the first braid downward. 4 wraps up, braid downward. Top leg goes over. Now the top leg is going to go under. Top leg over again. Top leg under. All right, and I should still have these 2 eyes in the same spot. Okay, I'm not going to put a bunch of twist in here. I'm just going to let them lay neutrally. Just laying neutrally there. I'm going to drop that along the side of the hitch climber and attach to the bottom hole with another Ultra O. Run that around. Okay, now what I'm going to do here, which I think is an important step, is I'm going to put one of our grommets, a rubber keeper, on here to keep that eye from falling down, that hitch leg from falling down as I'm moving in the tree. All right, little DMM grommet, that's going to go on the spine. I'm not going to put it on just now because once you get them on, they stick like crazy. They're really tough to get off, which is a good thing. But that's going to go around and sit here on the spine and keep that leg from dropping down. That keeps it nice and tidy, everything captured up front. All right, so we'll save that for a minute. Now you can see here, I've got 4 wraps up the rope, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 braids, and the legs are alternating over and under. All right, that's your basic hitch climber setup. Now it's something to talk about rope twist. All right, when we use a hitch and we have rope running over a surface, in this case it's a pulley, we can get twist in the tail of our rope. We've all had that happen where you're looking down and you've got this big gob of coiled up tail below you, or you're looking up the rope toward your tie-in point and you see a bunch of this. I don't know if you can see that pattern on camera, but you get this twist going on. Yeah, and we want to avoid that because that not only does it tangle things up, but it also creates more friction, particularly when you're moving over multiple anchor points, right? So there's a few different ways that we can mitigate that twist in the rope, yeah? And one is, we typically get twist, and Carson, you might have to zoom in here, we'll see what happens, but if you can see a pattern down the tail of rope here, it's nice and straight. Yeah, if I put a little tension on this hitch and I pull the hitch fair, that pattern doesn't change, right? Now could you see that? Okay, good. Try to get this lined up nice and straight again. Now I'm going to the weight in here. I'm going to descend on this hitch, and I'm going to twist my wrist in a certain direction. I'll twist right hand, I suppose you'd call that, toward my thumb. Let's see what happens to that pattern. As I twist toward my thumb, you can see the pattern twisting and moving in the rope. All right? And if I twist the other direction toward my fingers, I can get the rope to twist the other direction. See that happening? Okay. Now I got to give credit to James Kilpatrick and Scott Forrest. Hi guys. They were the two that introduced me to that phenomenon, and since then I've been pretty obsessive compulsive about rope twist. So at any rate, that's one way that we can influence rope twist. Particularly when you're in a difficult situation, maybe you're leaning out on a limb, you might tend to roll your hand in as you're really stretching back, yeah, and that can put a twist in the rope. All right. Few things, of course, if you have something on the ground that your rope is wrapped around, of course, a limb or a stick or something like that, anything like that is going to cause rope twist. So it's good to keep your rope running fair. Even having it draped over a crotch or a limb as you've redirected through it, that can also cause rope twist. All right. And now, before I put my grommet on the spine here, I want to talk about tying the hitch and how the way we tie the hitch can add twist to the rope. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you tie it right-handed or left-handed. It's not going to make the rope twist one way or another. At least not in my experience. But what will make the rope twist one way or another is uneven tension in the legs. Okay, so at the outset, when I talked about tying a hitch, right, I said it was important at this point in the tying process that these legs are hanging at about the same length here. Okay, so let's just goof this up a bit, and we've got one leg that's much longer than the other. And if I'm just being lazy, don't really care, and I just go ahead and tie this up anyway, over, under, over, under, all right, I end up with this. I mean, that's a bit extreme, but I've seen plenty of folks go ahead and just slap that in. Anyway. Okay, without rotating that around, but you can see right away I have an uneven tension in these legs. So this leg is has much more tension than this leg. And that's going to influence how this hitch runs on the rope. So that's one way to increase your rope twist and give yourself a headache, is uneven tension. See, I'm just pulling straight down and already this rope is just twisting. So pay attention to that. One way you can also manipulate your hitch for tying is to put little twist in the legs, which in general I try to avoid as much as possible. So here, I've got my setup. My legs are hanging at the same length here. All right, I'm going to go around, keeping it nice and tight to the rope. Over, top leg goes over. This is just the way I tie it. Under, over, under. Okay, and now I'm faced with a decision. Ooh, boy, this is what keeps me awake at night, I tell you. I'm faced with a decision. Which way do I rotate these to get them to sit in? Because right now they're sitting at 90 degrees to where they need to. Yeah? Well, if you see how these will rotate either up or down the rope. Yeah? So you can see I'm bunching up the hitch a bit here, or I'm lengthening it out a bit here. That's, that could create less friction, that could create more friction. Maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. We'll find out. Some people are a bit obsessive compulsive, myself included. I love to have both those tails pointing in the same direction, but you just got to get over it and just let the hitch lay the way you want it. Because if you start twisting one of these up, now I'm adding tension to this leg. It's like twisting the chains on a trailer, yeah, to tension those chains. So do yourself a favor, let it lay neutrally and let them go the way they want to. You might have to fudge a little bit here and there, but that's how you get a nice smooth run hitch without too much trouble. Okay. Now I'm going to clip that in. I'm going to check my tension here. I can also, when I've tied it and I've made a little bit of a discrepancy in the tension on the legs, I'll start from the bottom and push my way up. Yeah, pushing up as I go. You just push and rope, Taylor. All right? And then getting that figured out at the top side there, because that's what, I can basically even out that hitch by doing that. Yeah? And you guys can get a little bit of lopsidedness here and there. Okay? So that looks good to me. That feels good. That's laying well. So now I'm going to rotate this carabiner around, and I'm going to put my grommet on. It's important to get this a little wet. You can slide that grommet around. You don't have to smash it into the top. You want this to be able to breathe a little bit up there. You're just trying to keep it from running down the spine. So there's your basic hitch climber setup. You'll notice in my preferred setup is to keep the top carabiner with the nose upward. That allows me to quick clip and unclip, and I keep the bottom nose, the nose on the bottom carabiner downward. That also allows me to quickly clip and unclip into my bridge attachment. Yeah. So there's that. Are we taking questions? Nope. All right. Okay, yep, sounds good. Sure thing. Nick's talking to me in my ear. I'm not crazy. Well, I am kind of crazy. Okay, let's talk about, there's your basic setup. Now, what we're going to talk about today, I guess I should give you a basic outline, is right now I want to talk about forces in redirects and forces in a deflected rope. So that is something hanging on a rope, which would be myself in a V-rig or an M method, if you want to call it. Either one is fine. I'm probably going to say V-rig all day just because I don't want to breathe that much, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I'm going to talk about using multiple anchor points for climbing. Multiple anchor point, of course, is 2 tie-in points in a tree. It's also considered your climbing line and your lanyard. That's 2 anchor points, or it should be, yeah. And so there's some interesting things to talk about there. What happens when you load those anchor points and what angle you're loading those anchor points with your system. So we'll get into that briefly. And I'll talk about some lanyard usage, just basic. I'm using the CE lanyard, whatever lanyard you're using, but I can give you some tips there and talk about a correct attachment to your harness. Then we're going to go into a system called the add-in Prusik. And if you go to treeimagineers.com, you can pull up the Hitch Climber's Guide and follow along if you'd like to. I'm not going to follow it to the T, but a lot of these methods are there. So we'll talk about add-in Prusik, and there's a few different iterations of that. Then we'll move into the V-rig or the M method. And it depends on where you are in the world, what you want to call it, that's fine. After that, we're going to combine the add-in Prusik with the V-rig and go from there. I've got a dancer behind me. This is great. All right, only at tree stuff. So I hope we didn't get too distracted there with that dancing, but here we go. So let's, I don't know, Carson, can you walk around and face me this way? And we'll just look at the load cell here. So we've got a load cell. We'll get some weight on there in a minute, but right now it's reading 0, of course, and I think I have it on pounds. It's on pounds, but just consider it units. we'll just talk about units. So if you like kilos or pounds or whatever you want to talk about, you don't have to do any weird math. So when we look at a redirect, for example, so this is just a single line, but it's the same thing if this was a doubled line or a moving rope system. Yeah. When I clip into a redirect, for example, through a natural crotch, you can ignore any numbers on there right now. We're not necessarily going to talk about that just this minute, but when I redirect my rope through a crotch and I'm hanging on it here, we're changing we're changing a few things. We're changing the force. I guess right now this crotch here didn't have any force on it before I started, right? So I'm obviously adding force to that crotch. But if we say that my body weight is 100 units, yeah, and I'm hanging in tension on this line, that means I've got 100 units of tension in this leg of rope and also this leg of rope. That's assuming that there's no friction here. So I'll give you a hint. This is going to be on the test. When do they have access to the test? Is it after? Okay, so this will be on the test. At a 90-degree redirect, assuming that there's no friction here, with 100 pounds of tension, yeah, we've got roughly, basically, theoretically, 141-ish pounds, or units rather, of force, of peak force on this anchor. Yeah. So remember that for the test. Now,
hey, hold on one second. I'm going to interrupt you here.
All right.
Thank you for telling me that. The answer is 141 on the test.
That is correct.
The answer is 141. We're going to give something away here. This is a little goofy, and we're only going to say it once or twice here. So you might want to remember what we're about to say. We're going to give away a hitch climber pulley from DMM.
Sweet.
To one of
hitch
our winners.
Climber, yeah.
And a question from one of the people was, does it matter if I'm connecting into the top hole or the middle hole? Is one safer, better, or not allowed or allowed?
Yeah, when you tie in, your eye splice can be attached to either the middle hole or the top hole. That is fine, and I'll show you that just to prove that it's all right.
I believe you.
So either of those configurations is just fine, and I'll go in the tree when we get up climbing. I will describe both of these scenarios and why I choose to do one over the other. But you should, if you're going to use the hitch climber in this CE climb system, you should definitely put the hitch eyes in the bottom hole with that carabiner.
All right, straight from the horse's
yep,
mouth.
There you go.
Middle hole, top hole are both okay. So we're going to give away a hitch climber pulley here. I'm going to list off 7 letters.
I'm glad I don't have to read that.
And the first person to comment every letter except for the 7 letters that I list off is going to win that hitch climber pulley. So there's 26 letters in the English alphabet, and you've got to type in the 19 letters that I am not about to list. So everything other than these 7 letters. Ready? J, S, A, V, B, L, M. I'm going to say the letters one more time in just a couple of seconds. If you didn't catch that, the first person to comment with the 19 letters other than the ones that I'm listing right here is going to win a hitch climber pulley from Taylor Hamel. J, S, A, V, B, L, M. I do have terrible handwriting. All right, Taylor, we're going to give that away. We'll do it on the web, so you can just keep talking.
Sweet. Sounds good.
One last time, JSAVBLM. Type all the letters other than those, and you win a hitch climber pulley, if and only if you're first. Thanks.
Boy, somebody's probably typed it in by now, and at least now we know that Nick can read. So we're gonna, and I apologize for a runny nose here. It's a little chilly this morning. So in a 90-degree redirect, which is something that we do often, theoretically, 100 units of tension in this leg of line will place 141 units of tension or load, peak force, as it were, on this anchor. And now we need to consider friction. There's many considerations here, and we're not going to get into that for now, but just so that you can get some free CEUs, that's the answer for the test, okay? And let's take a further look at this and look at some, what I guess we call the magic angle or the critical angle, probably. And I'm going to move this up just slightly. We're going to fudge it here a little bit and sort of just take a guess at what this angle actually is. All right, do a quick cow hitch there with the other half. All right, I didn't quite get there, but the critical angle that I'm talking about is 120 degrees. Yeah, so now I've opened up this angle a bit. I've still got my 100 units of tension in the rope. So there's 100 units of tension here and here. Now the force, the peak force on this is going to be 100. It's going to equal the load. So at 120 degrees, right, on a redirect, this anchor is experiencing, what time are we at now?
We're 40 minutes into your 15 minutes on deflection.
Oh, sweet. No, the whole thing on the ground. We're good. We're good. We're really good. This is great. That's perfect. Yep. We're going to start about 5 minutes. So, remember that. 120 degrees, 100 units of tension, peak force is 100 on the redirect. In a perfect world with no friction, there's many, many other things to consider here, but for the purposes of theoretical, imaginary, well, it's not quite imaginary, but that's on the test. Now, here's another thing on the test. When I say that this anchor is experiencing 100 units right now, yeah, 100 units of tension here, 120 degrees, 100 units peak force, where is that anchor at? What angle is that anchor experiencing that peak force? And the answer to that is it bisects, without friction and not moving anything, it bisects these two ropes, right? It bisects this angle. So at 120 degrees, that peak force is happening at 60 degrees to that anchor. Make sense? And if we're back down at 90 degrees, yeah, the peak force is occurring in the middle of 90. It bisects those two legs, so that's occurring at 45 degrees. All right, and as caveat here, remember that's assuming no friction. All right, that's important to remember in the real world. So, very briefly now, we need to look at deflection forces. We're going to I'm doing a clove hitch this time because I like to mix up. But I don't like to cook. All right. So we're going to do very quickly with a Prusik here. I lied. It's going to be a little more than 5 minutes.
Remember, Taylor, you wanted to be the first person to do a webinar from a tree, not the first person to not get into the tree during the webinar.
Can they hear you saying that, Nick?
No.
Okay. Nick just said, remember, I wanted to be the first person to do an in-tree webinar, not the first person that didn't get into the tree. A live in-tree webinar.
Wait. Look in the tree.
All right, let's check out some deflection forces, okay? And this is a little bit hokey, but I'm going to try to find 90 degrees here. And I think we're about there. I'll actually measure it with an inclinometer. Should have a 40-pound pack here once I get everything stuffed into it. Let's see what we end up with. All right, so this pound, you'll just have to take my word for it, weighs 40 pounds or 40 units, this bag. Now, if that's truly 90 degrees, take some stretch out. I think that's less than 90. Nick, come on and give me a hand for a sec here, will you? Just lift that bag up for me. Okay, that's good. Yep, let that down.
Heavy.
40 pounds. So at 90 degrees, would be 2 anchor points. Yeah, we're deflecting rope here. We're going to double check that this is 90 degrees. Okay, here's 0. 37, we're not quite there yet. So let's go up again, Nick. All right, try that.
You're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way.
Am I going the wrong way? You're nuts. Thank you for that. Have audio?
Good. Just smile. Look at the camera and smile.
All right, talk. Hello, checking. Am I back? Am I in?
Is he on or not?
MIA. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's very cold here. Double A's are failing in the
It's cold and the double A's are failing in the mic boxes, I guess.
So you might need these when you get into the tree in case your cell's up there.
Oh dear.
You might have to do a mid tree.
Sounds good. All right, so if we do some math, at 90 degrees here, 40 pounds is a very lightweight 40. We should have around about 70%, yeah, or 70 units if we've got, or not 70 units, 70% of 40, yeah, on each anchor. So just because you're hanging from 2 anchor points doesn't mean that your body weight is shared 50-50. Well, it is shared 50-50, but not necessarily 50% of your body weight, yeah? Boy, I might have just confused some people. I just confused myself there. All right. So at 40 pounds, 90 degrees, we have about 30 pounds, okay? That's close to, I'd call it 75%. Yeah, we're pretty darn close to, we don't really have time to get this perfect, unfortunately. So let's just see what happens now as we start to increase this angle now, yeah? So if Nick helps me again, pull this angle, or pull that rope up a little bit higher. Yeah, that's.
Oh wow, the force went way up, Taylor.
Yeah, take the stretch out here. Okay. Now the force should have gone up quite drastically. In fact, it's at what, 85 or 48 and a half. And we're at about 100, we're just over 120 degrees. Let's get this down to 120 degrees. I want that to read 40. Yeah, so I'm going to take a little bit out. Where are we at?
41, 42.
42. How about now?
39.6.
Okay.
39.39.
39. It's close enough to 40, I'd say. Yeah, about 40.
Yeah, 40. 40, right on the dot.
There we go. All right, so this should read then. Oh boy, my thing went all wacky. Okay, well we're gonna stop that. But 120 degrees, 40 unit load, 40 units of force on each anchor. Yeah, remember that. 120 degrees, Similar to the redirect, exactly the same as the redirect. At 120 degrees, we had that force on the anchor. Now, one more time, Nick. Come on, let's go. We're going to go climbing.
What are we doing? Up.
Up. Okay, that's as tight as I can get it by hand. Yeah.
Your hand.
Now what are we showing for force there?
70.
70. Okay, we got 40 units of weight hanging on a very wide angle here between two anchor points, and we've got 70 units on each anchor point. So almost double. Yeah. Now, if we were to bring this up to 170 degrees, we have almost 6 times, yeah, almost 6 times the units on each anchor point. So if this is also on the test, right? If this was 100 units and we were at 170 degrees here, we'd have almost 600 units on each anchor point.
Are we giving something away with another test answer?
I think we are.
We have a DMM vault, right?
We do have a vault. We've got a couple locking vaults and a couple wire gate vaults.
All right. Well, this one's a little easier. We just want you to spell a word backwards for us. That's easy enough, right? We're going to use a word that was inspired by one of my literary heroes, Mary Poppins. The first person to write supercalifragilisticexpialidocious per the official Mary Poppins spelling backwards.
Nice one.
Is going to win a DMM vault from Taylor Hamel.
Sounds good. Well, wire gate or locking?
Whichever one you want, man.
Let's give away a locking one first.
A locking one? Okay. So we've got a locking DMM vault for whoever can type out supercalifragilisticexpialidocious backwards per the official Mary Poppins spelling, and that's only if you're first are you a winner.
All right.
Let's see if anyone's done it. I'm going to go check the computer.
Let's get climbing.
We're going to start climbing soon.
Yep. Sorry, Carson, you're going to have to say that. What?
You want to tell them what angle the anchors are experiencing?
Ah, yes. Good one. Good one. That's another thing. Thank you, Carson. This is also on the test. So that peak force that you're seeing right there, that 70 pounds, where is that acting on this anchor? Well, it's easy to see here. It's just acting right in line with the rope. Yeah. So that 70 pounds is acting on that anchor in this direction. There's also some horizontal force and some vertical force and everywhere in between, but the peak force is occurring in line with that rope. Yeah. Same thing if we take this down, right? Where's that peak force occurring? Now that peak force has shifted downward, and that peak force on each anchor is occurring right in line with the rope. Yeah. Until if we drop this down and had both these ropes parallel to each other, yeah, it would be in line with the rope, but they would also be vertical. So in that case, that might also be on the test. All right, well let's knock this off. We're going to get up in a tree. It might take a few minutes, and we'll start to have some fun.
If you guys want us to start climbing the tree and having the first live webinar at height, hit the heart button for me. If you'd prefer that Taylor stay down here and blabber, hit the frowny face button.
All right.
Heart button to start climbing.
No more
frowny
blabbering.
Button to stay on the ground.
Yeah.
Taylor is going to walk in front of that camera. We're going to cut to it, and then you're going to set that down on the ground.
Okay.
Underneath you and start climbing. Okay. Taylor, I need you to vamp in front of this camera for a little bit.
You need me to vamp?
Yeah, well, he gets up in the tree.
Okay. You're good at vamping, Nick. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go vamp. I'm assuming my audio is still live. I have something that's perfect to vamp about that I forgot to do over here. In front of this one. All right, we're talking. We're keeping the vamp going. I am live. That's cool. All right, hi everybody. We're back. I'm not in a tree yet. We're getting our camera techs up in the tree. And while we're doing that, I'm going to just briefly chat about just that redirect force and those deflection forces again. If we think it might be better if I use this little branch. All right. Here we've got, I don't know if I'm in frame, but I'm just going to keep talking. Okay, now, redirects. Let's just look at a basic, maybe a rigging redirect or a climbing redirect. Cool. All right, here's my main tie-in point, and I'm going to redirect out here. Does that make sense? Trunk of the tree, main tie-in, redirecting out here. All right. Now in this case, what's basically happening is I've got a 90-degree redirect. I've got two legs of line, and this is roughly bisecting that angle. So, and assuming no friction, but basically that's what we're doing here. We do have some friction in this crotch, which changes things slightly, but this would be using the tree structure to our advantage, because this is a strong redirect point for this particular limb. All right, we can talk about what's happening down on the trunk and things like that, but for now, let's just talk about our redirect point. So this, as my weight comes on here, I'm basically compressing this limb, and that's a structurally very sound way to do it. Now let's take a look at another example where, say I had another tree out of frame, or another limb or anchor point, and I put a 90-degree redirect in from this direction. Yeah, so it's the same angle, right? There's 90 degrees here, but it's completely different loading of that stem, right? Because as you can see, now bisecting these angles, right, is this one here, and that is perpendicular to this anchor point. So that, even though it's a 90-degree redirect, that wouldn't be a good choice. Let's put it that way. Yeah. All right. I'm going to start getting my harness on, and we can also talk about that in deflection forces. Okay. For example, in a V rig or an M method, and I'll get into the history of that in a minute. Say I've got these two anchor points. Disregard what the tails of the rope are doing, but I'm anchored here and here, and I'm hanging in the middle. Yeah. So as I'm hanging in the middle now, we know that. Disregard the tails now. I'm directly anchored, but we know that peak force is occurring along those legs of line, and so that is creating compression in these stems, yeah, which in this case I would consider a good thing. All right. Now, say I anchored here, anchored out here. You'll have to say that again, Nick. And hanging in a V rig, yeah, anchored here, and I'm pulling in the middle now. That is, again, not the ideal place to be putting my anchor point, yeah. And it all depends on how experienced you are, how comfortable you are with the tree that you're climbing. I mean, if you're traveling to a different locale, you're in a species that you're not familiar with, ask people what's up and figure out strength of those limbs and things. So it's not necessarily, I'm not telling you to never do that. I'm telling you to think about it very carefully, make sure that you got a strong anchor point. Yeah? Yes. Okay. And starting on my mark, or... Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to get the techs in the tree, and I'm going to start getting up in the tree, but what we are going to do is observe 2 minutes of silence for Veterans Day. So if you are a veteran, thank you for your service. And starting on my mark, we're going to do 2 minutes of silence. So thank you very much. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Yeah, much better.
It's anywhere, maybe back here.
You should be able to talk whenever.
Cool.
Where's your mic packs? Inside?
You good with that? All right. We're back on. Thank you for observing that with us. We've got Carson up in position, getting ready with the camera, in-tree camera. We got Nick Bonner here horsing around on the ground. And I'm going to head up. You'll have to forgive any heavy breathing. I've got this mic that maybe I should try covering up once in a while, but I don't get out in the field much anymore, so you might hear some huffing and puffing, but I'll try to make it look as easy as possible. And yeah, we're going to start out multi-anchor point basics. I'm going to really flow through this stuff. We got add-in Prusik, the V-rig, the add-in Prusik together with the V-rig, and then we've got a little surprise for you at the end. If we've got time, maybe. We'll see. Always remember the ABCDs of ascending. A is your anchor point, B is your belay. If you happen to have a base anchor, I would call that your belay. C is connections, and D is descent. Remember, always have a way to descend out of the tree. So I'm doing those little checks as I go here. My anchor point's good. My belay is secure. My connections to my harness and to the rope checked and secure. Make sure my mic doesn't fall out. That's better. All right, up we go. Am I clear to go up, guys? Yeah, cool. So I'm going to hustle through. We've got 2 hours remaining now. I thank you for everyone who's been hanging out with us, but we'll get a little more exciting now. I'm going to hustle through some things. We may not be able to take your questions as we go, but we'll try to answer them as we can. Try to leave a few minutes left over on the ground for some questions. And of course, you can always get a hold of myself. You can email or call. I'm always willing to answer questions, whether it's related to any of these techniques or basic DMM gear questions, that kind of thing. Totally happy and always available to answer your questions. That is, unless I'm fishing or playing the drums. Oh, my bad. Not too bad here. Get in position. Ooh. Let me know if I'm breathing hard and fogging up the glass. All right. Are you live there, Carson?
Yes, Taylor.
Cool. You'll have to let me know if that limb's in the way. Okay. You're just seeing me through here? Okay. Cool. Gonna get these ascenders out of the way. I'm going to tie in here with a pulley saver to start. We'll talk lanyard usage. I don't know if you can see. Never mind. We'll skip that. I'm using a locking vault to carry my climbing system up with me. I've locked that vault, and so that I'm not in danger of dropping anything, I'm going to leave it in that vault while I install it through the pulley saver. That's just another way to use the vault. I'm going to get connected. In this case, I'm putting my carabiner in the center hole to start with. Now that that's connected, I know I'm not going to lose it. I can unlock that vault, get my system out. All right, get out my senders. Get those out of the way. Slowly descend on my lanyard and weight my system before I take my lanyard off. Okay, we're all good. Now I would like to talk a little bit, very briefly. We all good there, Carson? Sweet. Okay, speaking of using a lanyard. Now we've all used our lanyard. Of course, I use mine in the forward D's on the tree motion. You're certainly all right to use the side D's of the tree motion. That's fine for positioning basically directly in front of you at waist height or just above. Now, if I'm in a position where I want to place my lanyard, anchor my lanyard in the tree above me, I need to move that to the forward D's. The reason for that is, well, I'll show you in a minute. We're all familiar with that feeling when you put that lanyard above your head and sit into it and the sides, squeeze up into your rib cage, yeah? I don't know what Nick's yelling about, but that's all right. All right. I prefer to use my forward D's all the time, but particularly, I'm just going to move out here just briefly for a second. Let's just pretend I'm using this anchor point. I've got that near Carson's line there. That's not a big deal. Now I'm going to, since that is above my waistline now, I want to put that in my forward D's, right? Not only is that much more comfortable because it's basically sharing the load here between my legs and my hips, right? That's what this harness was designed for, a sit harness, yeah? So I can suspend from these forward D's. I wouldn't want to do that on the side D's, so remember that. Take the time to switch that around when you're anchored in above your head. So in this case now, I've got 2 anchor points. Maybe it's hard to see from the camera, but I'm just looking at this angle that's created in front of me here on my harness. Yeah, it's not a very wide angle. It's quite acute. But in this case, I'm thinking about what deflection forces I'm placing on these anchors, yeah? So even with your lanyard in place, you're using 2 different anchor points. It seems self-explanatory, but we oftentimes only start thinking about deflection forces when we get a second climbing line into place. So it's important to think about that also when you're using your lanyard. So even here, if I were to put my lanyard in this position and hang from it, even though it's right in front of me, right, if I were to put some weight into this on a little stub there, right, put some weight into that, I'm using 2 different anchor points. I'm creating some different forces here. So there you go. Either clip to the forward D's, or you can also clip, if I wanted to run this in a single lanyard configuration or a doubled configuration, as I'm going to do here. I'm going to clip that in to my swivel, right? Can you see that, Carson? We got good visual. All right. In this case, I've attached both of these connection points into the top of the swivel. That allows me to still spin around underneath them, right? Because I've created a plane here and I'm rotating against that plane. So if I did want to spin around, it's kind of hard in this position to show you that. That's an acceptable way to use this swivel. I can also place my lanyard in the bottom hole. That's cool too. Yeah, the important thing is that I'm not trying to torque that swivel in the middle. Yeah, I've got tension going this way, so tension going this way. That swivel's being pulled along its major axis, and that's just fine to do that. So what you need to remember when you're using a swivel is that there are 6 different wear points in this swivel, right? I've got 3 on each eye. So you want to rotate the swivel around, you want to flip it around, use it in different configurations. Don't just always run the same side on your bridge because you can wear it out quickly. Yeah, you want to move it around, get even wear on all those points. Nice one, Carson. Thank you. So I'm going to just maneuver myself back in. All right. I'm going to stand up there. No, don't burn your rope here, Carson. Let me know when it's 11:30. All right, now let's look at a basic basic way to tie in two different anchors. Yeah, we use the lanyard. We could use a second system, in which case I would just have a separate climbing system and attach that to the swivel wherever was convenient. And now, generally when using 2 anchor points, I tend to attach both to the top eye of the swivel. Doesn't matter which color it is, which side it is, because I like to spin around underneath them, yeah? Or I could also attach that second system to the center hole of the hitch climber. And that would be one reason that I would choose to put my carabiner in the top hole is if I was going to attach a second system in there. So let's look very briefly. Yes. Sure. If you think they're relevant, I can take questions right now. Say that question again.
What type of lanyard adjuster?
Well, this, if I understand the question correctly, this is the CE lanyard, right? And this is a distal. This is a 6/1 distal hitch. This is 11 millimeter Sirius rope and 8 millimeter distal hitch. Ocean polyester. Yep, tied with a 6/1 distal. Was that the question? Yes, the Pinto. Yep. Yep, that's a Pinto as a slack adjuster. And all around nifty pulley. You bet. All right, so we've all done the pull the tail up and tie a Blake's hitch. I'm going to just show a quick variation on that for those that haven't seen it. So I'm pulling up all of my rope. This is 200 feet of rope, by the way. I won't answer that question just yet.
They don't hear the question.
So briefly, let me just open up this middle hole in the hitch climber. So I'm going to just stand up here for a sec, get my lanyard on. Just show the benefits of that. Secure. Moving carabiner to the top hole. Keep that center hole open. All right, weighting that. Secure back in. Lanyard off. All right, now I think most of us have probably taken the tail of our climbing line, passed it around a limb, brought it back with a carabiner, and just tied a simple Blake's hitch. It's an awesome way to do a multiple anchor climbing system. I'm just going to add a convenience to that, which is the multi-sling. Okay, this is, I'm going to get comfortable here. This is Teufelberger's multi-sling, and it is simply a ring on a string, as it were. I-splice, larger I-splice with the ring. But what I'm going to do with this, before I pass this rope around my second anchor point, I'm going to put that through the ring first. I'm just going to stow that on my carabiner there so I don't lose it. So I pass that through the ring. You can see that all right, Carson? All right. We're going to go, I've got it clipped here so I don't lose it, but I'm going to pass around this anchor point again. Make sure I'm comfy. Okay, now that that's secure, I'm going to take my knot out. Okay, I'm going to clip this back in, that eye back in. Can you got a good visual on that? All right, so basically now I'm going to tie a Blake's hitch with that multi-sling. Really, really like the multi-sling. I use it for a bunch of different stuff, and you'll see that in a minute as this goes on. I'm going to put a stopper knot in it because I like to, even though it's sewn. So now what I got is a Blake's hitch tied in. Yeah, so I'm going to load that up. I'm not going to move too much here because I'm running against Carson's rope. But what this allows me to do is tend slack with that ring. So as I'm pulling myself in, body thrusting, for example, I have a built-in slack tender with the ring. So I don't have to get underneath it and, right, I can hold on with one hand, as it were, yeah, and tend slack if I need that hand for balance. Is that, you got a good visual on that? Okay. So one thing to think about here when you orient this carabiner is that because this is a larger eye on the multi-sling, it does have a tendency, if you create slack, it'll drop down that spine on that carabiner. And that's fine if you keep it on the spine. I just made a rhyme, Nicaraya. Fine if you leave it on the spine. All right. That's an inside joke. So that'd be a good orientation for this. If I had this flipped around and the multi-sling on the gate side, it could get hung up on the gate. So something to consider. But anyway, there's a neat way to do that. And there you go. We'll be done with that explanation. I'll move on to the add-in Prusik. So I'm going to do some movement now down to Carson's right. And if I start staring off into space and it looks like I'm seeing a ghost, it's just Nick or Kale talking in my ear. So don't worry about that. All right, I'm secure. This is coming off. It's always a good idea, put a stopper knot near the end of your line, not right at the end because you want some rope to be able to stand on if you need to, but double overhand stopper knot. And oh yeah, sorry, Carson's giving me a hard time. I didn't call clear, but that's all right. There's nobody beneath us. All right, now we're going to talk about add-in Prusik. And of course, I left my short one down there on the other tree, but I've got another option. So when we talk about, I'm going to descend here a little bit, and I'm just watching. You can see here, I'm just watching my my rope as I go, just see how my hitch is operating, and it looks like I'm getting a little bit of twist that I can counter by just giving a little twist on the hitch like we talked about earlier. So keep that in mind. It's a good practice to get into. But now when we talk about add-in Prusik, a very basic, very simple add-in Prusik routine, I can take my little thimble Prusik off my CE lanyard, and I'm going to create a system here called the O-rig. Now I'm going to have to lanyard in to get this set up, but I'm going to preset just by getting this Prusik on. And when my ropes are under tension here, it's hard to get my hand in between them. It's very, very simple and easy to tie a Prusik if you just push the bite through. Keep that bite nice and small, just enough to get your hardware through. Pull it up. Now just rotate that bite through the rope again, pass the hardware through again. Okay, we're going to give something else away. Nick is talking to me in my ear. Anyway, for this, okay. Okay, gotcha. So, Nick, we have a question, and we're going to give away, this time we're going to give away a Ultra O Duralock. And the question is, how many words are in the upper or short description of CE lanyard on Tree Stuff's website? Does that make sense to everyone? The short description of CE lanyard on Tree Stuff's website, how many words are in it? On the desktop, it's the one next to the picture, the short description. How many words are in the description for the CE lanyard? You'll get a Ultra O Duralock. All right, first one to answer correctly. So here I've got a Prusik added above my eye splice. Okay, piece of cake. I'm going to take a step here, lanyard in, because I have to disconnect this now. I could set this up on the ground if I wanted, but it's easy enough to do it in the tree. Okay. Lanyard is secure. What I'm going to do here, and in the meantime, doesn't necessarily matter, but since I'm setting up for another routine anyway, I'm going to put that carabiner back in my middle hole, as it were. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, oh boy, is, and I didn't set up for this correctly on the ground, so I really, this is what happens when you got Nick Bonner yelling and dancing next to you. Nick's talking in my ear again. All right, what I've done is I've taken that eye splice now and passed it through that swivel. Okay? Now, passed it through and connected it to the bottom carabiner. I'm going to take that add-in Prusik. This is our first lesson on the add-in press here, and that gets clipped in to the top carabiner. All right. So now I'm secure back in my system. I've just got a loop going on. Flip this around so it's not, so it is jiving correctly, right? So there's our add-in Prusik. And now, of course, this is happening on Facebook Live, but unfortunately I can't pass this sleigh stitching through the swivel, and I'm not going to untie my bridge up here in the tree because that would be dismantling a harness in the tree to get a ring on there. But really, you should either have a large swivel or a ring, the standard ring on the tree motion harness. Okay, if we have time later, I'll set us up on the ground, but you can see this in the Hitch Climber's Guide to the Canopy PDF, or you can see it on the little video that I did a while back, this setup. But basically what this allows me to do, if I were able to run this through the ring, as I should have set up, is that I can extend that hitch out away from me. Yeah, you can see if I could roll that through. This hitch would just roll up, and the add-in Prusik keeps that in place. And as that hitch is further away from me now, I can grab below like an old school body thrust. Yeah. And body thrust my way up the tree, basically, and then roll it back together all under tension. So that was a bit of a fail on my part for not setting up beforehand, but whatever. You can check that out in a different spot. So, but that's the basic add-in Prusik. Now, securing my lanyard again, I'm going to reconfigure my system. And by the way, as I should talk about the swivel a little bit more. We did talk about it just up top there briefly for a minute. Taking this Prusik off, putting it back on. On my lanyard here. It's perfectly fine to use this swivel, of course, like a swivel, right? That allows me to spin around underneath it. But it's also okay to use it like you would a ring, yeah? And this is what we were talking about earlier about wear points, yeah? So I've got a wear point here, yeah, in the bottom. That rope is going to wear there. If I use it as I would a swivel, right, now I've got the wear point in the middle here. So I'm going to want to spin this around. I'm going to want to flip this over. I'm going to want to run my rope through the blue side and the gray side, all of that to get this figured out. And reduce wear on any one point. So, benefit of the swivel there. All right, let's do some moving. So, 3-minute break. Oh, got you. So, are we off camera now and I'm just talking? Okay, cool. I didn't hear you, Nick, but that's all right. Okay, cool. I'm gonna move now, and I'm gonna go up this limb. Does that work? Okay. No worries. Sure. I'll chat for a minute. Gotcha. We're still live. I'm just tidying up my rope. We're gonna show a few applications for the add-in Prusik. Right now, I guess would be a good time to talk about material. The material used in friction hitch cord or Prusik material. Now, generally, when we have a friction hitch, such as this, that moves along the rope. Now, this ocean polyester, for example, and there are plenty of other manufacturers and examples out there, but ocean polyester has a blend, or basically 50% of this cover is polyester. That's the green bits, and the other 50% is Technora, or an aramid fiber. That's very heat resistant. Yeah, so we get the grip, the grippiness of the polyester, but we get the heat resistance of the aramid. Aramids are very good in that way. Where aramids are not great is in a bridge construction, for example. This Globe 3000 has a polyester cover and a Dyneema core, yeah, and Dyneema is quite strong, and that would be an acceptable material for a bridge. Dyneema, on the other hand, would not be considered heat resistant because it melts at a much lower temperature than, or deforms, whatever you want to call it, doesn't quite melt. Deforms and melts at a lower temperature than Technora. So Technora is great for aramid is great for a hitch cord, and Dyneema polyester would be better bridge material. Those might be on the test as well. In fact, they are on the test. So, but I should note that I will be using the multi-sling for an add-in Prusik, and I will be moving for short distances with this Prusik. Now, that's not the best thing because polyester, of course, melts at a low temperature. We've certainly been tying Blake's hitches with the tail of our polyester lines for forever. But it's just something to be aware of. If I'm, in these situations, I'm going to be mostly static, not really moving too much on this Prusik. So I'm comfortable using the polyester that way. If I were going to be moving a lot, then I would, or even really quickly over a short distance. It's all about heat generation, right? So you need to think about that too. So I'm going to use the multi-sling. I'm totally comfortable with it in this application. You might want to choose a heat-resistant Prusik if you're going to be moving around a lot on it. in this add-in Prusik scenario, of course. I'm always on a heat resistant on my main friction hitch, of course. Is that a good 3 minutes?
Yep.
Okay, we're doing a giveaway. What are we doing? What are we doing, Bonner? Okay, well, so we've got vaults, we've got hitch climbers, we've got Ultra O's. So we'll give away another locking vault. Yeah. All right, what we're going to do, we're giving away a locking vault to whoever by the end of the broadcast, whoever posts a photo in the comments. Is that what it is? Whoever posts a photo in the comments by the end of the broadcast with the most DMM hardware in the photo. Now, does this have to be in use, or can it just be a big pile? Does it have to be on their harness? It has to be on your harness. All right, so the most DMM hardware on your harness, post a photo in the comments, and by the end of the broadcast, whoever's got the most bits, and we have to be able to see them and count them, we're not taking your word for it, then you'll get a locking vault. Okay, sweet. Is that good, Bonner? Okay, so you can like take a... Okay, do you want me to say that? Yeah. So, okay, I take that back. You can line your garage floor with all your DMM hardware and take a photo of it. You're not going to post it in the comments. You're going to... Okay, can't post photos in a live stream comment, so you're going to post photos on the main Facebook page. Okay, they're making a post that says post your DMM photos here. Nice couple of A10 Warthogs just went over. That's Veterans Day for you. Super cool. Back on that camera with Carson. So, we are currently setting up a page that says post your photo comments here. When that page pops up, whoever posts the photo with the most DMM hardware gets a locking vault. Yep, Kale's writing the post now. It should be live in a minute. Now, enough of that monkeying around. Let's do some climbing. So, what I'm going to do is demonstrate the add-in Prusik. Can I get a time check, Nick Bonner, or Carson, or whoever? 11:35. Good. We're on time here. So, now I'm going to move. If so, there's this is a pretty standard Midwestern tree, wide canopy, open structure, some bits that are difficult to navigate, perhaps particularly with a bad rope angle. So I'm going to go over add-in Prusik to protect myself as I maneuver my way to the top of this next lead. All right? So let's do it. And I'll just talk as I go. We'll cover some, we'll just cover things when we get there. So I'm going to make a little sort of swing here. Bear with me. All right. Now, long legs are nice in tree work. We all good with that angle there, Carson? Oh, sweet. Okay, so I'm getting to a spot here. I mean, this isn't a bad angle, but it's larger diameter trunk material here. Luckily, I've got this handhold, so I'm going to make my way up to a point where I feel like I'm going to want to put my lanyard on. Yeah, so I'm going to use these handholds and grunt my way up. All right. Not too bad for an old guy. So I'm in a spot here. I really don't want to stand up any further. until I have my lanyard on. Yeah. Of course, when I was a younger lad, I would just go for it. I mean, heck, I started out spiking trees and free climbing. You know, that's how I got my start. But basically in this position, to protect myself, I'm going to put my lanyard on. That, I feel better already. Yeah. And I'm just going to stand up. My back be facing you for a minute, but I'm just using my lanyard, using my climbing line to stay stable. I'm just going to rotate my way around here, and so that I can face you. So that's another nice benefit of a swivel. Yeah, is being able to roll around and change your position without having that tail twisted around you. So anyway, little slap. Now I never, thing is, I don't think I've ever been a natural from the beginning. Techniques in that. Couldn't hear you, Nick. Okay. Yes. You know, it's fantastic to watch really great climbers climb, natural climbers, and that. Now, those same climbers are still very skilled at production work. But one thing that I always try to drive home, and it's always been with me since I started. At first, I was just reckless, but pretty soon you start hurting yourself, and you realize that I don't need to get hurt for a paycheck. You know, I'll go get hurt, you know, riding my trials bike, or, you know, doing something fun, because it's not fun until you get hurt, right? But anyway, so this, I'm not here to try to impress anybody with climbing technique. This is just about ways to protect yourself. That's the end of the story there. So, all right, here we go. Now, of course, I've got some handholds here. I'm feeling comfortable, but I'm in a position now where I've got about a 45-degree rope angle, and if I come off of this thing, I'm going to smack into that limb pretty hard. At least it looks like that to me. So I'm not interested in doing that. So while I could, and this goes for if I were on spikes here. I mean, we all have done it. Got your spikes on, hold on, take your lanyard off, flip around, maybe put your rope in your mouth, right? You know, you don't need to do that. So there's a few different ways to do this. Of course, you could have a double-ended lanyard, right? So I want to stay secured here, and I want to be able to bypass this limb. So a double-ended lanyard, that would do it for sure, yeah? Totally cool. I don't use double-ended lanyard. I prefer this technique. You can also use a sling or a footlock Prusik, right? I mean, here I've got my footlock Prusik. Who really footlocks anymore? I still do occasionally. All right, footlock Prusik. I can clip in. Yeah. Now I've just secured myself while I take my lanyard off. Okay, piece of cake. Alternate, keep going. No problem. That's also nice. But then my footlock Prusik is tied up doing that, which I guess isn't the end of the world. Ouch. We're going to keep trucking along, so I might glaze over or gloss over a few things. We can catch it later in the comments, or like I said, you can track me down and ask me some questions. All right. So a solution to this conundrum, and you'll see that you can do much more with it, is the add-in Prusik. Now in this case, I'm not using the short one off of my lanyard here. I'm going to use this multi-sling. This is 1.3 meters. And again, I've got my rope under tension. I'm stable. I'm simply taking the bite I'm passing it between the ropes. Right, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's a 6-coil Prusik. Tied just like that. Fantastic way to do it. Yeah, I'm going to dress that and set it. Bring it down just a bit. And here I can do a couple things, but I've got a little bit to work with here, so I can take some slack off the line. Yeah, no big deal. I just open up that top hole and away we are. Away we go. There we are. Away we go. So now that can just sit there, and it really hasn't affected anything. It doesn't get in the way of my hitch. Yeah. I'm using the multi-sling here. Whatever sling you want to use, that's fine. So what that allows me to do now is if I alternate between these Prusiks, okay, I'm creating a leg of line on the front end of my rope, right? So basically, if you want to call it a lanyard, you could call it a lanyard or whatever. Important point to remember is it's just one rope. Yeah, so this is when you're, well, let's just take it one step at a time. Anyway, I'm going to disconnect my carabiner, and I've got a small diameter slice here. So what I'm actually going to do is put in a stop knot. This is always a good idea. Okay, that's up to you if you feel comfortable. I mean, if it were snowy, slippery, icy, you know, and you're this close to the end of your rope, basically, it makes me feel better to put a knot in there. So that comes off. Now, as you can see, what's happened is the multi-sling has basically become my eye splice. Yeah, that went into the top hole. Okay, and I'm simply going to pass this around that next point and clip it back in. All right, stop or not, or no, it doesn't matter at this point. Now that it's back in, I could take this knot out if I wanted to. Oh, God, yeah. Oh, man, it feels so cheesy. Hit the like button if you would put a stopper knot in here. All right, that's great. And hit the heart button if you think these new tree stuff helmets are the bomb. These tree stuff helmets are fire, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Yo, these are lit, fam. Hit that heart button for these helmets. All right? These are fire. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So, here I am. I've got this up into the next position. Now, I can take my lanyard off. Yeah? I'm secured so that if I were to slip, right? Ooh, that was so dramatic. All right? If I were to slip, I'm protected. Yeah, if I gaff out. So that's the drive behind this technique here. So I'm going to just keep going with this. Yeah. One thing that I generally try to do, keep tension in this leg and leave this just a little slack. Yeah. Anyway, I'm now I could flip that up higher. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to put my lanyard into the next position. Okay. Now I can leave that in place. I'm going to take this off just because it's, you know, dealing with two ropes there, but I'm totally secured here. Yeah, I've got my stopper knot in place. No worries. Just going to lean in and walk up. I'm not straining. I'm not frightened. I'm not worried. Yeah, just going to keep my lanyard coming up until we get to the next spot. Yeah, I can just keep doing that all the way up the tree. Right, just keep it going. I generally like to hold my position with the add-in, take my lanyard and put it up a little bit because it's easier to adjust your lanyard when you're maneuvering. However, let's take a look. I'm just going to hunker back down. I like to hunker. Okay, so I've got tension in my main tie-in, tension my lanyard, got just a little bit of slack here. I want to show a technique. I mean, this isn't that high. I just need you to use your imagination. I can very easily keep doing this. But if I had a position up top where I really wanted, I needed to get to, and it was very difficult to maneuver my way up a featureless stem, right? What I'm going to do, again here, I'm going to give myself a little more slack, and I can do that under tension. I'm just going to pull some slack there, body thrust that up, right? Pull some slack, body thrust. Yeah, till I've got enough rope to deal with. Now, I'm disconnected here. I'm pretty close to the end of my lanyard. I mean, it just depends on what you're comfortable with. I would always recommend putting a stopper knot in there. It's just, it only takes a second, even if you drop a bite. Okay, keep that stopper knot in place. Less stress on the mind. All right? So I'm having a hard time getting up to that crotch. So what I'm going to do, I can tie a monkey fist. I always keep a little throw bag on my harness. This is another one. I never really wanted to keep throw bag on until Scott Forrest convinced me to do it. So at any rate, here we go, up and over. Right, get that back down to me, baby. Now, because I've tied a 6-coil Prusik here, so back in, I'm going to untie this knot. I'm securing my lanyard. I'm going to move that 6-coil Prusik over to this side. Right, now this is slack. Yeah, and now I can take advantage. I'm in, I'm secure. I can take advantage of that. So I'm not bear hugging, doing anything that our mothers wouldn't approve of. Right? I can just body thrust. Now, it's a relatively long throw, but that's what I like about it. You can get underneath it and body thrust with it. You can't get all that close to your tie-in point, but there's another way to use the add-in Prusik. Okay, hit the heart button if you really want a Five Guys burger. Are we giving away Five Guys burgers? No. All right. This must be an inside joke. At any rate, so here we are. Now, at any point, I've just left this slack because I didn't need it, but at any point, right, I can just tighten this back up. Yeah, and I've got that at the ready. But with this add-in Prusik, either one side is tight or the other side is tight. Don't get into the habit of having this Prusik floating in the middle under tension, just because you won't like it. It's annoying. So, at any rate, that allowed me to shift sides. It's a bi-directional Prusik. I was able to body thrust up. Now I can get my lanyard on and suck myself up tight to that anchor point. Yeah, cool. All right, and now really I could keep doing that now. Now that I'm here, I'm not benefiting from that tie-in point at the moment, but I could continue to alternate lanyard technique, as it were. Yeah, on up. How about the quiz now? Are we missing anything on the quiz, Carson? I think we're doing all right. I think we're doing okay. So, lost my train of thought there for a second, but we're going to get it back. So there's the add-in Prusik for bypassing limbs, alternate lanyard technique, body thrusting into position. Yeah. So now I think we're okay to start talking about the V-rig or the M method. All right. Now I'm going to tidy tidy this up for a minute. So I'm securing my lanyard. That's fine. I'm going to take this add-in Prusik off. And again, to untie this, I'm just going to pull the loop, pull the bite, let it collapse, pull the bite, let it collapse. Easy. Don't mess around slinging the carabiner and all that mess all around. Don't need to. Just slip the bite over. That's the easiest, fastest way to tie 6-coil Prusik. Okay. Now, it's important to not drop anything, usually, right? Just going to put quick overhand, clip that in to my locking vault and lock the vault, right? Now I'm not in danger of losing that should I get butterfingers. That wouldn't be very much fun right now. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at, and I can see it got a little bit of twist in the rope here, so being very careful to drop it. I'm going to take a little twist out because I'm OCD that way. Man, these Duralock carabiners are lit. These are fire. All right, Duralock carabiner is basically a 4-action gate. So it's an anti-rollout gate. When the rope, and this will be demonstrated when I get into the V-rig here. When we have running rope under tension that comes against a carabiner, runs against a carabiner gate, there's a potential there to roll that gate open, a triple-action gate. Of course, it depends on manufacturer and which way the gate rolls, but a Duralock has a secondary gate. This purple gate is a twist, and now it's basically just back to a triple action. It's push, twist, and open. All right, so it's twist, push, twist, open. And when you practice it a bit, it's just second nature. It doesn't matter. It's not a pain in the butt. So I want to talk about the V-rig, and it's the best way for me to do this for initial setup. Well, let's talk about the history, okay? Now, I call it the V-rig because of the way that I learned it, right? So back around in 2000, right? This is the history of the V-rig and the M method as I understand it. Basically, on across the, okay, yeah, I got you, Nick. Thanks. I'm trying to do a webinar here. Nick's hollering in my ear. So, Mark Chisholm is credited with the M method here in the States. If you want to say, I mean, Mark, world-renowned climber. If you don't know Mark Chisholm, you should. Absolutely fantastic, great guy, top quality. And at any rate, round about the year 2000, from what I understand, Mark had this idea on the other side of the ocean in the UK or Europe, can't remember exactly where, somewhere over there. Another legendary climber named John Hartill had the same idea at the same time. Very interesting. So I call it the V-rig because it looks like a V. Some people call it the M method because it also looks like an M for Mark. So cheers to both of those gentlemen for being innovative. Yeah. I'm just going to call it the V-rig because it's what I'm used to. So that's no disrespect to anybody there. Anyway, the basic nuts and bolts of the V-rig, if we just look at it right in front of me here, okay, I'm basically in the simplest form, right? The V-rig, you don't have to use a hitch climber for it, but it makes it much, much easier to use. But let's just look at the V-rig in its simplest form, and that is you take your I-splice off, you pass it over a limb, okay? You clip it back into that same carabiner. And now we take our top leg, we've basically got this big triangle, take that top leg and we connect it back into that top hole. All right? Now, a very, very simple way to do that is to just clip it into that top carabine. But now we've got some potential misconfiguration there. We've got rope rubbing on rope, which isn't the end of the world. All right? But we can clean that up a little bit by installing a carabiner in place instead of hooking it to the same one. So let's look at that. Let's look at the very, very basic V-rig or M-method setup. Right, and that would be this right here. I'm going to extend down just a bit so you can get the idea. All right, now, so what do we have? We had my standard climbing line system that was terminated to this carabiner. I basically took it around the limb, put it back, and brought that top leg down in. Okay, this is the V-rig. Very basic, as I said. We've got just natural crotch friction. All right, and we've got a bit of friction here. But in essence, if you're already climbing with a Hitch climber and you've got one extra carabiner, you can do the V-rig. Yeah, no problem. But it's difficult to move around on this now because there's a bit of friction. Friction isn't always a bad thing. All right, friction just is what it is. In this case, the added friction there is going to tend to pull me in that direction when I let out some line. Yeah, so that would be a case where friction is benefiting me if I wanted to stay in this position. Okay, we're going to do another giveaway. We do have quite a bit of stuff to give away. Okay, do you want me to read that on camera? I can't freestyle. All right, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm being asked to do a rhyme live, and I can't freestyle. I need to think about it. I'm really sorry. Can't do it. All right, we're doing a giveaway. Okay, let's give away a wire gate vault. Okay, so this is for a wire gate vault. The first person that can name 8 different DMM carabiner models. Yeah, I'm not talking about gate styles, I'm talking about the shape. You know, the different models of carabiner. First person that can jot down 8 different models will get a wire gate vault.
Can you do it off the top of your head?
Oh yeah, well of course. If you want me to do that right now and help people. All right, 8 different carabiner models. It doesn't just have to be professional, it can be rock climbing. Anyway, back to the business at hand. This is a V-rig, right? And it's an equalizing, self-equalizing, you know, depending on the amount of friction. Okay, but I basically have 2 tie-in points. I still only have 1 rope, 1 hitch. So I'm not going to be slinging a chainsaw around like this. I still have to have a second point of attachment, either another climbing line or my lanyard or whatever. Yeah, so just remember that. Also remember in a V-rig or M method, I now am using 4 times the amount of rope. Yeah? Whereas in a running rope system, we're generally using 2 times, well, not generally, we are using 2 times the amount of rope. Because it's a big loop, well, now we've got this other loop added in, so this is 4 times the rope. So if I were tie in this case, let's say these tie-in points are both at 50 feet. Okay, there's a bit of spread here, taking up some rope, but in general, a 50-foot tie-in points with a V-rig is going to take 200 feet of rope for me to reach the ground. Yeah, 4 times 50. All right? That might be on the test. You never know. So I can move a little bit here, just pulling on these upper legs. Yeah, I can move myself around. And now here's where that friction is being beneficial. It's holding me in position. Yeah, instead of me floating out into the middle of this thing again. Okay, so we'll get into that a little bit later, but I just wanted to show the very basic setup. Say, we have a question, I believe. Yep. Yeah, that's. I just finished saying that. We have a question. Do you want me to say the name and all that? Yeah. William Pruitt asked the question if the V-rig counts as one tie-in, and it's 2 points. Yeah, how do you describe that? But when you're using a chainsaw, for example, this would only be 1 point of attachment because it's just one rope, and if I cut any one of these bits of rope, I hit the deck. Yeah, so you don't want to be using a chainsaw, even a handsaw. Watch out with this. Okay, this is 2 tie-in points, but it's technically, I mean, how do we say that? 2 anchors, only 1 tie-in point. Yeah, it's only 1 legal PPE point of attachment because it's just 1 rope. Yep. Say again, Nick. I don't want to get into that. Yeah. So Nick, if we added Prusiks and this and that, and we'll get into a little bit of that, but you can do some experimenting and some thinking and see what you come up with. But I am going to do the add-in Prusik with the V-rig later. So make sure if you're cutting, put your lanyard on in a suitable place because this is just 1 rope. Yep. Chainsaw. All right. Any questions? Well, they'll trickle in. So we have another hitch climber to give away. So Nick, come up with another question, will you? Ooh, I got a really tough one, but nobody's going to know the answer to it. So now I'm going to set up the V-rig. I'm going to do some work on the V-rig. I'm going to go back to my main tie-in probably and start over again. And we're going to, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just shouldn't talk through, Now you'll notice I don't have a Prusik here, but I am body thrusting onto this tie-in point. Okay, so I'm going to take a pull, and then I'm just going to pull the slack through like I normally would. Yeah, I'm just pulling the slack out from here, but I can pull here. There's 2 little grabs. Yeah. Okay. Now, first person, we're going to give away a hitch climber to the first person that can correctly name, along with the spelling. Yeah, name and spelled correctly, and you can use nicknames if you want. The first person to correctly name and spell all 3 members of the Tree Imagineers, you get a hitch climber pulley. Right? Who are the Tree Imagineers? There are 3 individuals that are involved in, well, they're all working arborists. They're all involved in education, also product design. So the Tree Imagineers are responsible for the tree motion harness, for the hitch climber, and the Hitch Climber's Guide to the Canopy, which is where I'm taking much of this webinar from today, is coming from that Hitch Climber's Guide to the Canopy. So if you don't know about Tree Imagineers, check them out. But the first person to write down all 3 names correctly spelled gets a hitch climber. All right, here again, just briefly, we talked about deflection forces before. This is a little bit different just because of the 2 legs of rope on either side, but basically, the point that bisects these 2 lines on just look at the top leg. That's easy enough, right? Could be a few degrees different, but just look at this top leg, and that's going to tell me my deflection forces. Of course, it's a little bit different if I'm closer to this side or if I'm in the middle, but I'm seeing about 120 degrees there, roughly. Yeah, so I can assume that my weight, which is probably decked out in these clothes and the harness, I'm probably 200 pounds right now, close to 100 kilos. So let's say 200 pounds of force hanging here. I've got 200 pounds of force on this anchor acting along these lines and 200 pounds of force on that anchor acting along these lines. Now it's a little bit different because I'm not right in the middle, but to think about, I've got two anchors that I'm using, but it's my entire body weight on each anchor. Okay, say that again, Nick. No, I'm not quite 220. Anyway, let me get up here, get my lanyard on, and we'll set this V-rig up in a more ergonomic and useful way with a bit of extra kit. And I'm going to set the V-rig up and I'm going to walk out on this skinny limb over there. And to do that, I'm going to have to bypass some limbs here. So you don't just have to set this up between point A and point B. You can get yourself set and go underneath things, and it just takes a little bit of thought. But hopefully that'll come through here in the video. So, lanyard on. Take this apart and get set up again. Probably spent a bit of time talking about that. Okay, it's a good idea to capture your rope with a knot, but I'm feeling good about this. I'm not going to drop this. So, but if it were to happen, it would happen on a webinar, wouldn't it?
Taylor, I am not rescue trained.
Carson just said he's not rescue trained, so that's all right. Okay, I'm going to maneuver my way around here. Give myself a little slack. And hopefully this comes through in translation. So, don't drop the rope, butterfingers. Okay. Work my way down. Nice and easy. All right. This looks like a good spot. Okay, got my lanyard on. Okay, feels good to me. Now, based on the structure of this tree, and we do have some EAB damage up here, and this limb at this angle, you know, I might be tempted to V-rig out here, and I think that's probably okay, but just because tree work is a cycle of making the best possible choice at each point along the way. Every time you have a decision to make, just make the best possible one, and you'll feel a lot better at the end of the day. So, at any rate, I'm going to set my V-rig up here above my head, and then that'll allow me to work out on this limb. So, how I'm going to do that, lanyard is on. I'm going to use a pulley saver, using the identical pulley saver, just a longer version. This has pinto pulley. I'm using pinto pulley for my anchor point. So that goes in. Can you see that? Is my head in the way or anything? In this case now, because I've made myself nervous about dropping rope, this is a good habit to get into. I'm just going to put a quick overhand, right, and just clip it into my leg, and now I'm not, you know, if I get butterfingers and drop it, I'm not SOL, okay? So, eye splice comes off, goes through my anchor point, whatever that happens to be. I'm going to clip it into the top hole, or rather, clip it in right where it was, in that center hole. Okay, so I just made a triangle here with a limb in the way, but that's all right. Okay, now that that's secure, I take that off. And now I just need to collapse that down into, and I'm going to attach that with, and there's a reason for that, and that you'll see later when I use the add-in Prusik with this, but add-in Prusik can be connected to either hole, but the big thing here is I've got less friction with this pulley. That's a hitch climber Rapide. Now, what's the difference between a hitch climber Rapide and a standard hitch climber? The Rapide has roller bearings in it. That's the difference. That might be on the test. The difference between a standard hitch climber and a Rapide is that the Rapide has roller bearings. Aha. Yes, what are the manufacturing processes used? Well, of course, the side plates are hot forged. Yeah. There's some heat treatment that happens. And there's also machining that happens. We have to machine holes for the anchor pin to go. So that would be 3 processes that take place: hot forging, machining, heat treatment, not necessarily in that order. All right, so here I am in the vehicle. Got main attachment, second attachment brought together with the hitch climber. So in this case, I've added a few elements. Instead of just natural crotch and a carabiner, I've added another pulley saver and a hitch climber along with a carabiner. So now that that is secure and I'm tied into my swivel, let's, I want to see a heart button for, oh, Nick, he's making me do this. All right. Let's hit the heart button if you own a hitch climber Rapide, and give me a like if you own just a hitch climber. All right. Right, here I am, stable. I'm in place. I'm going to take a little slack out, or not slack, rather. I'm going to pull some tail through so I don't have to drag it over this limb. So what's happened here? What am I benefiting from? Well, now I have this tie-in point. I don't know what it looks like to you, but that angle's almost flat on my standard or on my primary tie-in. So it would be very difficult to walk out to the end of this, right, with that angle. Now, of course, I could put a redirect in here. That's absolutely fine, but I talked about in the beginning, this is just a way to do this. The redirect would also work just fine. Depending on how you set it up. This is a retrievable redirect, as it were. So I'm going to use it in this case. You can see how I'm moving just the one hitch. Yeah, giving myself a little more rope in the system. Did good? Okay. No prob. And we have a camera on me there. Hi. All right, cool. So I'm able to move. Here I'm using one hand for balance, and I've got just a finger and thumb over this hitch in the V-rig. And I'm, hunkering down here because I'm an old guy now. Finding some footholds. Yeah. So I'm stable. I feel good. I'm, continuing to walk out on this limb, cleaning up my rope here. Yeah, less friction. All right, and now you can see, maybe you can see on that camera angle, the angle between the tie-in points has closed up a bit now. Now I'm sharing more of my weight, getting closer to 50% of my weight on each anchor as this closes up, right? So I can keep moving. I've got one hand free, right? It's just one hand, nice and easy, hunkering down, nice and stable. Get my lanyard on here just to, okay. Now I can try to stand up. So I'm going to use this added mechanical advantage as well. Yeah, just a little pull. Okay, now I'm standing up, hands free, very comfortable, as it were. I'm triangulated, right? I'm not just fighting against one tie-in point. I have this one. Yeah, so it's triangulation between my feet, my lanyard, needs to be stable out here to do some pruning. All right, so on the way back, I'm going to hunker down a little bit again, take a stick in the eye, and don't lose the glasses. Just going to take that lanyard off, and now I've got mechanical advantage, pull above my hitch, so that can help me come up. Sometimes if you're not used to it, it can pull you off balance a little bit. Yeah, we're back. Lanyard off. All right, now in this case, again, if I'd rather, and I know that the tie-in point can take it, I'm going to take up a little slack just on one leg, yeah, and then tend that slack out with the tail. Yeah, I'll do that again because this feels better. I can lean against this instead of pulling straight in on the limb. So I'm just going to take a pull, take the slack out just like you would normally. Yeah, till I get to a point. So I'm just continuing to do that. Right? You get used to it. It's not this big fight. It doesn't have to be a big fight. And here again, just this reduced friction is very nice. I can manipulate this with one hand, manipulate with just a thumb and forefinger, right? And you'll notice this will move, the V-rig. I can move along in the V-rig without even touching the hitch in a certain radius. So if I wanted to take a big step over here, for example, yeah, I can do that. I can pull myself over, right? I don't have to trail the hitch with me. I can take a little rope out here if I want to make a move, right? Make a move here, tend that slack, but now I have to hold myself here, right? This wants to draw me back into the middle. So, as we showed earlier, friction at that point would help hold my position there. Yeah, sometimes you might want some friction there. So, we've got a triangulation redirect here. Now, I can also use it just as a straight line redirect. So if I go out this way, just going to pull some tail through. Yeah, I can walk myself out a bit. Yeah. So here again, I'm benefiting from this overhead tie-in point. I have most of my weight on here now. Very little on that main tie-in. Okay, but I can, either with one hand now again, yeah, I'm still benefiting from this overhead tie-in point. So, of course, a redirect would be acceptable there as well. On the way back, depending on how good you feel, right, I can walk back in or I can hold on. I'm holding on here, just not generating too much slack. A couple pulls. Remember, you got 4 times the amount of rope here, so you'll have to pull through a little bit more. All right, and just easing my way back down in. Tightening this up again. Okay, so you can triangulate and move away from those points. You can go in line, or what I guess I call it, the going beyond your redirect, as it were. Okay, keeping slack out of the system, and now you can see that when I rest into this, okay, it wants to pull me back toward the middle, yeah, which is fine. Now there's a little bit of friction here, okay, but one fun thing to do, oh, and I should show, you know, when we've got lines under tension and operating against it, yeah, there's your anti-rollout gate there, so that keeps, still not a good idea. We're zooming in. How's my breathing sound? I'm not like huffing and puffing in this mic, am I? All right, so, you know, gates or ropes under tension near your gate. I mean, good idea to try to keep that off of your gate, but hey, sometimes it happens. But here, I'm not rolling out. Even if it were to go the other way, right? To twist, come down, twist back the other direction. And don't do that while you're hanging in it, right? Okay, so anyway. But very cool thing about the V-rig here is the ability to pull yourself like just like a trolley. So this is I'm just pulling on that top leg. I'm not working too hard here, but instead of descending, right, I'm just keeping a little bit of pressure there. But instead of descending down and coming back up, I can just, and, you know, bypass all that garbage down there. And actually, because I have some friction there and a bit of tension, this is holding me in place quite well. But if I want to go back, it's just a simple hand over hand. And all the time I'm doing this, I'm aware of the force that I'm placing on those anchor points. Yeah, I'm thinking about this angle, thinking about those anchor points and how they're oriented, or how they're orientated if you're in the UK, right? So, important to keep that in mind. So let me get back. What are we looking at now? It's got to be noon or something? But you can see that I can move a certain radius without even touching that. You want to watch out you don't get your fingers in here, that hurts. But, you know, I can move without, you know, pull myself around, right? Obviously you got to watch. It's always rope systems, yeah. Cool, well let's move on to the Prusik along with the V-rig, and I hope that I hope at this point already that I've shown some interesting concepts. Again, here you can do retrace everything. I mean, here I'm just in my lanyard, secure. Tested. Somebody's talking in my ear. Go ahead. Photo contest, everybody. There's a post on Tree Stuff's main Facebook page. A photograph of the most DMM hardware gets a, what were they called? All right. All right, lanyards on, climbing line off, bypass this limb, piece of cake. Okay. Now that I did that, I'm going to hop over this limb again. Let's give away another Duralock. The first person to write the town, the village where DMM is located, the name of the village where DMM is located gets an Ultra O Duralock. What? Right. Okay, the village where DMM is located, type that in the comments. First person to do it and spell it correctly gets a gets an Ultra O Duralock. No, they don't have to do that. All right, let's get back to business because we're we're running a little short on time. I want to show another add-in Prusik thing that I neglected to show the first time around. So here, you want to get it to move sometimes, right? Okay. Let's show this retrieval of the V-rig. In this case, I'm using the pulley saver with the small pinto, so I'm putting in my yellow cone. This can be done anywhere in the tree, of course. Now I'm warming up a bit. Okay. Piece of, and only takes a second to get reset. Yes.
We're going to ask the question everybody wants to know, which one's better all around, the Pinto or the Hitch climber? We're going to be hard to thumbs up.
Okay. So the question is, hang on, let me retrieve this first. There, I retrieved the pulley saver. Spit a little bit, and now I'm just going to tighten. It's that simple. Okay. If I have a little twist in there, I'm going to get the twist out. Okay. Hitch climber comes off. And now we want to know, what's your favorite, the hitch climber or the Pinto? Pinto rig, Pinto, little Pinto, doesn't matter. Do you think the best pulley ever made is the hitch climber or the Pinto? And if it's the hitch climber, I want you to hit wow. And if it's the Pinto, I want you to heart it. Don't fart it, just heart it. Okay.
Your rhyme.
That's my rhyme, Nick Raya, thank you. The rhyme, Nick, but it wasn't going to happen. All right. Now, really quickly for the add-in Prusik on its own, it's called the bypass. This is called the stay tied in Prusik, right? So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, bang. There's my coil Prusik. I'm going to pop that in the top hole. I'm going to keep tension. If I was really in a spot where I had to keep tension on this, I could hunker down, come up. Okay, I'm going to take a little more out. I'm going to put my stopper knot in, because that's the way to do it. Okay, now this comes off. I'm tied in under tension. I can do a hat, what I call free direct here. What? 12:30. Good. We're cruising. Okay. I'm still under tension. Right now I can tighten this up. So I'm going to do that. Alternate. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little. Okay, so basically I bypassed limb while staying tied in, and I can move this over. Well, we'll just have to go for it here. Taking off my lanyard, yeah, I'm protected from swing. I'm going to yeah, let's do that. Get into position. We're talking behind the scenes here. All right, now, this is a bit hard to see, I know, but I'm going to adjust. Yeah, I'm staying tied into my main line. I'm just adjusting between the Prusiks. Keep some tension on there. This is a little, I'm going to generate a little bit of slack when I make this changeover, but I'm keeping the slack to a minimum. So now I've got both those Prusiks tightened up. I've got as little slack here as possible. I can take that Prusik off now, right? Move it over. Now I do have a little bit of slack here. I've generated that much slack. Not much, right? I can either take it off the line or I can just simply move it over the crotch, yeah, and clip it back in. But basically what I've done there is just create just a half redirect. It's just protecting me from a swing for a quick little spot of work out here. Yeah, it's just another interesting way to use that add-in Prusik. All right, we're going to take it off. Again, just passing that bite through, quickest way to take on and off a Prusik. All right, we're going to get into the real guts now. Got my lanyard on. I'm going to take climbing line apart. Again, very careful not to drop it. Right. Again here, lanyard on, tension. This looks a little wonky with my lanyard like that. That's where it ended up. I'm not taking it off now. So I want to maintain tension in my climbing line while I set up the V-rig. So here's how you do it. Okay. Like so. Okay, hitch climber goes on. Leave it there on your ice splice. Add in Prusik. Bend the hitch. And bite through, down, bite through. Simple and easy. Tie it, set it. That into the hitch climber. Okay, can you see what I got going on there? Now this, you can, if you really under tension, grab the legs of that, pull, hold your body weight with your arm, and take your palm and push the hitch climber up through, and those legs should keep it tensioned enough that you can very right. Boom. Now what do I have? I've got hitch climber pre-installed on an add-in Prusik, alternate between the two, leg for my V-rig ready to go. Getting there. Okay. Under this leg on saver, because that's how I roll. These pulley savers are lit, fam. All right, I'm secured here. Now you notice I don't have a stop knot in, and I took my eye splice off. That's a no-no. Okay, I'm feeling comfortable because I've just been doing this for 2 hours, and I know my hitch is grabbing. But think about that. Look how close I am. If this hitch were to slip, yeah, just think about it. All right. There. I just installed the V-rig while on that line. I have my lanyard in place for stability. Yeah. Now to settle into it, right? I can just take tension off that, right? Okay, now I'm in. There's the V-rig set up with that in Prusik in place. All right. Now, you can see it happening already. If I'm doing a traverse, right, you want to clean this up. But first, and I want to capture my progress, I'm going to hike this up, just hang here, take the slack out here. Yeah. Get me up a little higher, makes the traverse look more interesting. Right, but now that Prusik acts as progress capture. So if I get tired on my way across this traverse, or I get near the end here, I'll hold my position, right? Okay, now that hitch is holding position. Am I still in frame? No worries, but now that's holding me in position here. Okay, so I can also use that, of course, on the other side. I'm just going to keep it loose here. Try to anyway. I'm just going to collapse that for now. Keep it loose. Just work my way over. It's surplus to my needs at this point, so I can take it off. And I can place it on the other side, of course. Very easy to change over, move around. So now I can create slack. Again, like you saw me do this earlier with the add-in Prusik, but now this is just it in a V-rig. Yeah, so I can move a little bit on this for positioning if I just wanted to abandon that tie-in point for a minute because it's really not helping me, and I just wanted, I'm going to go out of frame maybe for a minute, but if I just wanted to do a little bit of work out here, just temporarily, right, I'd use this Prusik, leave that backside loose. I can always immediately tighten it up and take in slack, the whole thing, right, and you probably can't, I'll try to maneuver over here. As I'm taking in slack, notice how this is tending as well. Right. Okay, get that to grab. That's position, right? Okay. No worries. Tighten that up a bit for the last traverse. I'm going to take this off and move it over and show you one more trick with this add-in. Don't worry about passing the carabiner through, just pick it up through the bite. I'll be ready. I'm going to go over and take this all apart. Huh? Nick Bonner's coming up, everybody. All right. See, this is, talk to me while I'm doing stuff, Nick. All right, here we go. 6-coil Prusik back in, right? Just pulling the bite. Piece of cake. Super fast and easy. Tie it, dress it, set it. Okay, now we're in. I'm going to traverse back one more time and then show you how to use the add-in Prusik to retrieve, to stay tied in, as it were. Retrieving that. So once again, I'm just going to hand over hand. All right. I'm going to make sure that Prusik grabs. Uh-oh, Nick's in trouble. This is so funny. I love it. Okay, give me a minute, Nick. What is it? Okay, we got 15 minutes. I'm going to show you this one retrieval trick. And I'm going to use add-in Prusik. I'm going to do counterbalance rescue. I'm going to rescue Nick Bonner, okay? So just you're yapping. And what I want to do is I'm going to adjust. I'm letting out a little bit of line here, okay? I want to get over and stand in this crotch. So I just let out a little bit of line. I'm going to give myself just a couple more pulls. Yeah, make sure that it's sitting all right. Okay, just a little more line. Make it over here ever so elegantly. Okay, so now check this out. I'm gonna lay something on you, fam. I love it. I am going to tie it in with this Prusik. If I, for whatever reason, was in a position I couldn't put my lanyard on, but I had to get out of here, stung by bees or whatever, I can retrieve that, staying tied into this conglomeration here. Now, again, good idea to put a stopper knot in here. Okay, so let's do that. So I can give myself a little more, because this is the time when it's good to show best practice. Get that stopper knot in. Boom. Do not drop this without putting your retrieval ball in. You can see now I'm disconnected from my eye splice. Yeah. The multi-sling again is acting as my main attachment. So that's under tension, right? Retrieve. And if I really had to bomb out of here now, I could just descend right now, no problem. I could alternate between the two, you know, but right now I'm cool. I can just descend on my standard hitch, right? See that? I'm trying to keep things separated here. But I can just descend down. That's no problem. I can clean this up on the ground, or if I felt like I didn't have enough rope. Okay, Nick. I'm going to go rescue Nick now. All right, sounds good, buddy. All right, ice goes in. Tidy up my pee saver here, because I got to go save Nick. Okay, got ya. Okay, I'm descending on that multi-sling, right? I can take up this loop with my multi-sling. Okay, if I want to stay in position, I can just alternate between Prusiks, right? But that's basically what's going on here. So now I'm going to rescue Nick, and I'm going to do so using the add-in Prusik. And what I want to do, because his body weight and my body weight, so I'm going to move my anchor point down. Of course, I'm stuck on a little sucker down there. Just add some twist to the rope. Whew. If we end up running out of time, well, we're just going to go until we're done. Is that it? Sweet. Okay, dropping rope. Watch your face, Nick. Here we go. You're so pretty. All right. So in the interest, I'm descending again now on the multi-sling. I'm going to get my lanyard on. I'm going to tidy this up. Okay, off now. We're on the Kale. Lanyard on. Taking off. Multi-sling. See, it seems like a lot of kit. It might be for some people. Still comes on and off very quickly. And I'm even tidying it up and putting it away properly. If I were in a real emergency, then I would just, of course, give the thought.
I'm so tired.
All right, just hang in, buddy. I'm going to get you at some point.
Oh man, I sure hope you do.
The comic relief here is fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to retrieve this, retie. I'm going to talk through this shouting, and I don't need to, but forgive me if I'm shouting into your computer speakers. All right, stand clear. Gear coming out. I don't think anyone can hear you, Nick, so that's probably a good thing. That's one thing. If you ever are in a real aerial rescue situation, I've been in a few. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Anyway, if you are in a real rescue situation, it's very high stress. I've been in a couple myself, and just relax. Keep your wits about you. It sounds silly to reiterate it all the time, but you know, you do not want to become a second victim, and or screw things up even worse. So just take your time and train, really. So I'm tied in around a big beefy limb here. I'm going to descend into my system just on my lanyard. All right. I'm assuming I'm still live. Okay, system checks. Okay, I think we're fiddling around with some camera angles here, so it'll just take a second. All good. You can. Tidying up some stuff. You got me, Carson?
No.
Okay. You got me there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and hanging out and being interactive with us. We still have I think 3 items to give away. We have a WireGate Vault, a Ultra O Duralock, and a Hitch Climber still to give away. We'll do that just at the end here. Remember to take your quiz. All right, we're back here now. Just the one camera? Cool. All right, so Nick he's exhausted. He's stuck in a crotch, basically. His climbing line is not usable because he vomited on it, and you know what that does to rope fibers. So basically, we're just simulating where I have to rescue Nick, but I can't use his own climbing system to get him down. So a quick and let's just say a very effective way to handle that is called the counterbalance rescue. It's a pick-off rescue of sorts, but I'm using my body weight to counterbalance Nick's to perform the lift. So what I'm going to do is add in Prusik here. I'm going to get down, of course, in a real rescue scenario, I'd be checking him out. And okay, Nick, how you doing?
Oh, I'm okay, Taylor. I'm just embarrassed.
But just to show,
I got exhausted here.
Yep, just to show how I'm going about this. Now, under tension here, I don't have my lanyard on, so I'm going to install this add-in Prusik under tension. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 6 cold Prusik. All right. Now I'm going to pull on that, push the hitch climber through to open up that eye. I'm still holding on here. That was quick and easy. And now I'm going to extend, just like I was doing up top. I'm just going to alternate. Nick's got the best view in the house right now, so I'm just going to alternate in body thrust. Okay, that's a way to do this. Just to save time, of course, I can stand here and alternate between the two, keeping slack out of the system. I'm going to use about 2 meters of rope, or about 6 feet, 2 meters of rope in the tail here to lift up Nick. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Stopper not in place would be all right if I'm disconnecting things. But I'm not going to leave the stopper knot in place when I do the actual lift. So I got my lanyard on. I'm going to switch this carabiner around. Okay. And this is all quite easy to do. But now that the carabiner's in place, I've got a stopper should this slide, so I'm not worried about it. I'm going to let that hang. Okay. And I'm going to descend now down to Nick, and I'm going to connect that into Nick's bridge.
Taylor, help me.
I am Nick. Hey, that's the best carabiner to get hit in the face with. Now, I'm going to just leave it up to Nick to hold himself upright. Of course, I could put a chest harness on him or something. But basically, I'm going to take my carabiner and clip it into his ring on his bridge. There you go. Got the ring in place. Yeah. I could, if I needed maximum height, I would clip it directly into his bridge. This doesn't matter at this point. So now, he's clipped in there. I'm going to go up on my tail of my climbing line. Clear some rope here. All right, so now I'm just standing on my tail, going up until... Are you nervous, Nick? I've done this a few times. Okay, just until that gets tight. So right now, it's getting, that leg is tight. I'm going to stop. Okay, I'm going to make sure my hitch is grabbing. My hitch is grabbing. Right now, we're pretty much in a counterbalance. Okay, his tension, his weight is in this leg, my weight is in this leg. The first thing I'm going to do now that I've tightened us up is put in some added friction. Okay, it's best to just do it right away. And for that, I use an Ultra O into my forward D. I used an anchor ring. This happens to be 40 millimeters. It could be smaller. It's up to you. I just take a bite of rope, push it through the anchor ring, clip that. So I basically have a stitch plate here. Okay. I'm going to need that when we descend because we're going to have 2 times body weight on this Prusik. Yeah. But for now, here we go. Now that I'm in this position, got my friction in place, I'm going to descend on the black Prusik. I'm going to push, I'm just going to break it first and see what happens. So Nick and I are pretty evenly weighted. If Nick was much lighter than me, he might come shooting up. If Nick was heavier than me, I might have to do a lot of pulling. But basically, now I've got a feel for it. I'm going to push this Prusik all the way down, and now I'm going to lift Nick up. All right? The Prusik now is in place. If one of us were heavier than the other, it would keep us from, really shooting up one way or another. You dig what I'm saying? So I'm going to push this down as far as I can go, and I'm going to lift below it. And now this is my body weight and Nick's body weight and a little extra help from me. And anything that I pull on this directly is a mass transfer in my body. Yeah? So Prusik is there now. It's keeping us in position. Prusik all the way down, lift on Nick. Yeah? All the way down, lift on Nick. I'm in position here. I'm going to connect us together. And I don't have a particular sling I want to use for that, so I'm just going to use my lanyard. I'm going to go bridge to bridge and tighten that up. So now we've got a hard connection. Now this Prusik isn't doing anything anymore. I can get rid of that if I want to. But I've got my friction in place. We're connected. We're secure. I'm going to disconnect, just so we don't have to come back up and get it. I'm going to disconnect his climbing system now. I can take that and stow it somewhere. Yeah, and I'm gonna straddle Nick because that is the most effective way to keep control of a victim. Yeah, and if I had a chest harness on them. I could keep them upright.
I would have agreed much sooner if you'd told me this was involved.
So now, as we descend, I'm going to turn my back toward you, and I'm going to use my feet to keep his head away from the trunk. Now, of course, if he was hanging backwards upside down, that wouldn't be possible. I'd have to figure out another way to do it. But, in fact, I'll just spin this around here. So here's how I use the friction as we descend, right? So I've got control. Are we good? Okay. Friction, right? Lots of friction there in the ring. And now we can descend. That's the counterbalance system. My weight on one leg and his weight in the other. And I'm just using my feet to keep his body away from the trunk. Okay, and when you hit the ground, be careful you don't stand up too quickly because you're going to drop them. So, Nick, let's just stand up together. Yeah, good.
Hey, high five. That was sweet.
Yeah, that's fun. All right. Cool. I think we're switching cameras.
I even figured out how to open your computer.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to switch cameras. We'll be right with you in a second. We'll do some last questions.
Over here.
Okay, we're back. I'm thirsty. That about wraps it up. I may have missed a few points here and there. Oh yeah. I got to unwrap Carson. Carson's abs are killing him right now. There we go. That's 2 rescues in 5 minutes. All right, Carson.
You're on live, Carl.
He doesn't look like a doofus. So Carson.
Got the important stuff.
Carson's been up there the whole time with his
Taylor?
camera rig, doing a great job. That was tough. I think you're good to go. Awesome. Thanks, Carson. Thanks, Kale. How do you want to wrap this up?
Give us a heart for Carson or a wow for Kale.
Give us a heart for Carson and a wow for Kale.
We know how that's going to go.
All right. Once again, thanks a lot to Tree Stuff for putting this together. Nick Bonner, Carson, and Kale. Thank you, DMM, my company that I just love to death.
They want you to give that to you.
I've just sweated in it. But yeah, thanks to DMM for making this possible. And I've had a total blast. It's going to take us a little while to figure out who won what. We have 3 other items to give away. How do you want to do that, guys? I feel like I'm squinting. I can take this off now.
The alphabet except for DMM Wales. Yeah,
All right. Okay, so for a WireGate vault, type in all the letters of the alphabet except the letters in DMM Wales. First person to do it. All the letters of the alphabet except what's in DMM Wales. You get a WireGate vault. Then for an Ultra O Duralock, type in all the letters of the alphabet except the letters in Tree Stuff. First person to do that gets a Ultra O Duralock. And then for the Hitch Climber, the last Hitch Climber we're giving away, I think we're giving away a Hitch Climber. Tell me the inside diameter of all 4 DMM anchor rings. Yeah, the 4 sizes of anchor ring. Give me the first person to write the 4 inside diameters of those anchor rings gets a Hitch Climber.
Okay. And are you willing now to engage Nick Araya in a rap battle?
No, so Nick Araya and I have been doing a little rap battle behind the scenes, but my freestyle is just not on point. So I'm not going to rap on live stream with Nick Araya, but we will continue it maybe in the comments. So I need, a good 10 minutes to come up with a rhyme. But I mean, Nick's flow is lit AF, let me tell you that. So, well, that's it. I'm just standing here like a doofus now, but
Put a link to the test in the comments.
we're going to put a link to the test in the comments.
And on the main Facebook page.
And on the main Facebook page, you get 3 CEUs if you get 24 out of 30 correct.
The broadcast will be on for a couple more minutes, so if you want to post your pictures to the DMM post, there's still that out there.
Still post pictures to the main page. Post your photos of all your DMM kit. And I think that was for a locking vault.
Yep.
Okay.
And tell them how much you love the helmet.
And this helmet is fire, everybody. Fire.
And everything you use today is online at Tree Stuff.
And yeah, everything I use today, of course, is online at treestuff.com. And thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you learned something. And even if you didn't learn something, I hope it jogged your brain a little bit about some different ways to approach tree climbing. So thank you very much, and thanks, of course, to Tree Imagineers also as well. Thank you. Good.